kind of good. I'm glad that you've joined me. I've got a very special drink today for this wonderful live stream. Oh, look at the colour. Look at the beautiful colour. So, hello everyone. I hope you're enjoying seeing me in this new lens style. Oh well, that's really made the camera go crazy. Apologies. Anyway, here I am. Thank you. I got a first like already. I am consuming, as always, I'll introduce, this is a familiar old favourite of ours. This is the quite low alcohol but very, very beautiful tasting red wine apple mix thing from Sapporo. A mere 3%, but rather enjoyable, rather tasty, rather delicious. And I am very tired, so perfect drink. Hi, Harry, first person in. Hello, Harry, how are you doing, sir? Hello to everyone. As always, you might have seen, if you haven't already seen, I just posted my video conclusion to the review of Band-Maid's Unseen World. Now, on top of that, obviously, you are welcome to well, obviously watch that one. I'll be going and doing another video where I check out the comments on that as well, but you're welcome to talk about anything you want in this live stream. It doesn't have to be Unseen World, although I think that Band-Maid might well come up a little bit in the conversation if anyone has seen that review and maybe agrees or disagrees on any points. But like I say, I will be diving into that much more with the comments when I do replies to the comments in a video coming up as well. So big hello to everyone who is pouring in. Talking of pouring, let's have a first sip. It's a bit sweet, but God, the flavour's beautiful. So yeah, like I said, dragging myself into a state of preparedness for the live stream today, because it's been quite a long week. Obviously, going through the album, getting that all done. Obviously, like I said, I've still got a couple more things to post in regards to this album, but we're going to be moving next week into covering some more things. Plus, we're going to start doing the album reviews, and that's something I want to talk to you guys about as well, just in case you aren't aware of the conversation we've been having, which was mostly in the Discord, and I know that not everyone who comes onto the live chat is in the Discord, so there's going to be some of you guys who aren't aware of that as well. We've talked about it a little while. I'll dive into it a bit more now. We talked about this a few times before, but it really went into much more discussion in the Discord. Oh, hi Sven, I watched the video. Hello. Interesting. We're going to have maybe some comments on that as well. But yeah, so on the Discord we talked about this, but it has come up in conversation in the live chats before, going back quite a long period of time ago, which is that I obviously, if you've been following the channel for a while, we used to do track by tracks of loads of different albums ending with an album conclusion, but a lot of the time some of them we didn't get around to the album conclusion. You guys are aware there's two Scandal ones, for example, which are just massively overdue now. It's a good year since I did those track by track reviews, and plus it also became obvious that a lot of the albums that I wanted to do track by tracks of were ones where there wasn't a huge amount of interest, so I was putting in work doing like sort of 13, 14 videos, And then, I mean, obviously for something like the Bandmade one, it's worth it because people are really interested in checking out every single one, and you're getting hundreds of views. People are really enjoying it. But then some of the other ones I really wanted to do, like the Scandal and the Silent Siren, we're getting like 20 views, sometimes less. So it was something, hey, nigga, and howdy, konbanwa as well, Tomoto. Konbanwa, konbanwa. So it was something where I was kind of disheartened that we weren't able to do that. Obviously, it's really fun being able to do it again with Unseen World, Bandmade, and obviously Baby Metal, a good example of that as well. But what I'm thinking of doing, what I am going to do now is I'm going to do videos where I do album reviews, kind of like the video that I just posted now that some of you see just came up like about an hour ago on my channel. I'll be doing videos like that where I won't be going through track by track. I'll just be doing for albums where I don't think people are really that interested in the whole track by track thing, but maybe they just want to check out what I think of the album. Then I'll do like a maybe 20-30 minute album reviews, maybe even longer, depends how much I've got to say, about various Japanese albums. Some new ones, some old ones, but this also gives me a chance to talk about bands who otherwise copyright stood in the way. Things like Polka Dot Stingray, Asian Kung Fu Generation, King Gnu, you name it. I mean, Scandal, obviously, we already knew that was one of the reasons why that was going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, so doing some album reviews as well, because I think looking at the demographic for people on this channel, there's younger people as well, but a lot of people on the channel are older and I think more album listeners, or at least people who would be willing to check out a whole album. Whereas I think a lot of younger listeners, certainly, they just want to hear like one song here, one song there, which is totally valid. It's a different way of listening to music. But and I don't want to be stuck in an old-fashioned way of doing things. But I do think that there is a lot of people who are genuinely interested in albums, and so that would be a good thing. Plus, if I give an album review, maybe you don't want to check out the whole album, but just from what I say might encourage you to want to listen to the band. So yeah, I'm going to be trying to throw in a mixture of reviewing individual songs, but also reviewing albums, giving my thoughts on albums, and plus that also opens me up to listen to a lot of music. And as some of you guys know, I've been desperately wanting to really just sit down and binge Silent Siren, and now I've done all of their singles. I have done all their singles. On both the channels, obviously. I know a lot of them have been deleted, but still. Now I've done all the singles, that really means that I'm in a position where I can listen to the albums. And of course, there wasn't much of an audience for track by tracking them, so I'm just going to go through and do a video per album, review them. And like I say, it's just so many that I get to do. And it's going to be fun for me because I'm really going to just be able to sit down and binge music again, which I haven't been able to do so much over the last couple of years because I've been wanting to really focus on each song one at a time. Definitely for singles, if a band has singles that I can review, that have interest, then I will review them before I dive into albums. But for any band where I've done a lot of the singles, kind of like, I did quite a few Scandal, but I've probably done less than half of the singles they have, but I've done a few singles for them. So anyway, as you say, and they got copyright issues anyway. Anyway, there you go. I'm going to catch up. There's a lot of comments coming in, so. Oh, sweet red pink thing. Alright, CMC. Right then, on to the band in question, Master of Puppets review. Pop. I fell asleep during it. I'm not joking, I fell asleep. And then I woke up like a few tracks in, I was like, oh, okay, I'll pick that up tomorrow. And I didn't. Okay, so I'm definitely in trouble for that. Well, he didn't like the intro, so my hopes aren't up for the rest. Actually, I kind of did like the intro, but I think I was too tired. I just, yeah, I just, yeah, I was kind of, I'll kick back and relax, listen to it. I don't think I had the necessary energy level for it. I am definitely going to check that album out though, because I'll be honest, I liked a lot about what I was hearing. I think one of the main, I mean, I'll give you an idea. I'll review what I do remember before I started to tune out, which is that some of the music I liked. Unfortunately, it does sound dated. It did sound, the first few tracks did sound quite dated, but it's good. It's good as what it is, it's a classic thing. I just hated the singer's voice, got to be honest, didn't like his voice. Well, hated is probably a bit strong, but it felt like it was kind of I'm going to get so much hate for this. I was never a big fan of his voice anyway, but it felt, first of all, very unremarkable. I think it just kind of had that feeling of sounds like cover band singer. Just didn't like his voice. It was neither, and again, I know this is going back before, sort of metal vocals had evolved into what we might say now, but it was neither energetic enough to be really sort of burningly urgent or musical enough to be particularly musical. It just felt kind of so. There was things I was liking about it, but just wasn't. I'm not surprised that I started to doze off and woke up a few songs further in because just it wasn't really grabbing me. It wasn't bad. It just, then again, this is always the problem when you go back to old albums from a newer perspective, or if you're more familiar with more recent albums, is I'm probably comparing it to things that were inspired by it. But my argument in response to my own comment would be, well, you can listen to really old Queen albums and they still stand up. Even if certain like sounds and keyboard effects and things sound dated, they still stand up. Because they were, so good at doing what they did. So because they were so imaginative, I think that's the thing. But then again, you could then argue against that. Well, that's because they've had less subsequent imitators. Queen did not really so much they didn't really create a genre. I know technically Metallica didn't. It was Black Sabbath who have been generally credited with creating metal music. I don't know the particular facts. But Black Sabbath are generally seen as the sort of progenitors of the modern metal sound, my understanding being, or the more contemporary, the more accepted metal sound. Just so yeah, it could be that they've just got more imitators than Queen had, but I would say they're certainly easier to imitate than Queen. So yeah, it wasn't grabbing me, but it wasn't bad. It was just kind of yeah. But I am going to go back and listen to the whole thing because, like I say, there was enough quality in it that I think it probably is going to have some standout tracks that maybe I'll be able to go, you know what, this song was really good. That's kind of what I want to get from it. So, but I think as well, you need more energy. I think you need to be more into it. I was kind of a bit at the time. So yeah, it's partly on my fault. I'm going to accept that. Sorry, a lot of comments and I'm getting really behind. Sorry, I need to move forwards. So Sven, Sony, yes. Yeah, Sony problems. Avoiding the Sony songs, but doing album reviews is fine. CMC Battery Info is the naffest part of the album. Good Battery Info. Is there a song called Battery Info? Good song, but overrated. Okay. Sorry. Oh, Battery Intro. Anyway, yeah, okay. I wasn't checking out the song names. I'd say the weakest song is Leper Messiah. I didn't read any of the song names actually, so unfortunately, yeah, I'm not working on that base. I'm working more on track numbers. Interesting. Okay, there's a lot of comments, so I'm gonna have to start catching up. Matt, hey Matt, I feel like Unsealed World is driven by the frustration of COVID lockdowns and isolation. Agree. Let's see what a few other people say before I come with a comment there. Oh, sorry for being late, Sis4, but it's hello nonetheless. Watching some other channels live streaming Baby Metal's Met Rock. Cool. I did say it would be, it would lull you to sleep, so I was right on that. You were. I forgot you said that. Think you have done on maybe 30% of Scandals, if Scandal singles. Yeah, no, that sounds about right. Well, it did come out in 1986. Yeah, again, the album's nearly as old as me. So I'm like I said, I'm being fair and realistic, but it just, I did an entire conversation with myself just a second ago about that. Well, if you didn't like Hetfield back then, you'd hate him on Black Album onwards. Is that the name of the singer? Not familiar with the members' names, got to be honest. I'd say Hetfield was become better as a singer. Technically has become better. Okay, well, he went from singing to oh yay. That's how I read what you wrote there, because you went from capital to lowercase a lot. I remember listening to Orion quite a few. I'm going to skip through a lot of the Metallica stuff because I don't know these tracks and people's names. I'll have to come back to that more after I've maybe done a little bit more learning. Fair share of imitators for sure, but they were very unique for their time. Yeah, like I said, I'm aware they were unique for their time. So it's kind of, I feel a bit bad almost giving a judgment in retrospect. I've never been into Metallica. They've always felt very unremarkable to me. But like I say, that's probably just because what they've done has been built upon subsequently. Without the bands that I know since, would I have liked them more for being different? Possibly. Possibly I'd have liked them just for the novelty at the time. Look, just in response to the comment earlier, sorry I've forgotten who it was, but about did Bandmaids did Unseen World sound like the frustration of lockdowns? I don't know, and it's a very difficult one to answer. I always find it very tricky to dive into these sorts of subjects because very often we feel as the audience that we know a lot about band members, especially with bands who have such big personalities, but very often knowing the psychology of someone who writes a song is very difficult, especially when it's a member of a band who has an image and kind of have to live up to their image. I'm not saying there's anything fake about Bandmaid's image, but they do create a character for themselves, which is perhaps, I mean, one of the things that works so well about them is that they are so naturally who they are. You can see they enjoy playing their characters, but I think they are still nonetheless, they kind of play caricatures of themselves a lot, which is fine, just themselves amplified with excitement, which is great. But as a result, I think it would be very hard to judge the subtleties and to actually know how they would react to that kind of thing. It could well, as much as frustration, it could just be the fact that because they were isolated and Konami is the primary writing force, that she could have just had less influence from the other members, and therefore she could have been just focusing more on playing guitar with less of a sounding wall from the other members. And that actually would kind of make sense for the fact that, like I say, there were certain points in the album to me that felt a little bit, around the middle, felt a little bit messy, in a way that you would maybe expect if a song had been written, handed to someone else, and then handed around and handed back, rather than it might be written more in a practice room. I'm sure they had live sessions, but in a practice room where you're literally playing at the same time as someone who's playing along with you. So that could have created a little bit of that manicness that at points in the album worked, and in the middle of the album at some points didn't work. So I don't know. I don't think we could even comment on whether it was frustration. That certainly sounds like a very valid option. But I think personally I would lean, if it was a choice between the two, it's probably actually a combination of both. But if it was a choice between the two, I would lean slightly more towards the theory that it was influenced by Konami being doing a lot more of the writing on her own with just a guitar. And when you had just with a guitar and you want to have fun, you do play fast and you do play rock because there's nothing to get in your way. Let's catch up on some of these comments. A few more things in relation to Metallica. Like I said, I'll skip through them, no disrespect, just because I don't have really much to say, except for just my usual uninformed bullcrap. I recommend their debut album, Kill 'Em All. It was interesting, actually. I was thinking I'd heard that their debut album was very good, but also by the same token, I can't help but feel that it might be more raw in a way that might be reminiscent of... Oh, I wonder if it's going to be raw in a sort of Black Sabbath-y way. Black Sabbath, in case you don't know, I really don't. Black Sabbath I find very unengaging. Just none of their songs really appeal to me that I've heard. Or it could be very sort of raw and urgent in more of a Motorhead way. Motorhead, obviously, different timing, I know, but it could just be that more sort of punky, youthful energy, in which case that might well appeal to me more. Rev, a mate of mine was playing Metallica and was told to turn that racket off by his 11-year-old daughter. Nice. I'm with the 11-year-old girl. Greetings from Montreal. Hello. What's the snow here? Few trees were damaged. Cheers. Cheers. Yeah, the snow is kind of out of control here, but this area, well, I guess like Montreal, this area is built for it. By the way, my aunt, who lives in New York, she went to Montreal due to the COVID, because she's with someone there, and she ended up staying the entire year, and I think she now lives in Montreal as well. She used to just visit her friend there regularly, and now she lives, I believe, in Montreal. So that's really cool, actually. I completely forgot that, but yeah, nice little connection there, in a weird way. Moto, to be fair, if all his daughter listens to is Taylor Swift and Rihanna, Metallica might be a bit too much for her. Well, she could be into rock, but just not metal. But fair point. Seems the Unseen World War. I have not come to a firm conclusion yet. Yeah, you might notice from my video I was struggling to come to a conclusion as well, as I am trying to listen to it with the other albums. Is brave in its ambition, but perhaps not completely successful. This could change. Isn't that horrifying? I don't know if you've seen my video, but it seems that you very much agree with me. Sven, God, what's going on? A part of puberty is to rebel against the music of my father, so no rock music before this century. I don't think I ever really. I rebelled against so much, and I think sometimes it's weird. Some of the music I liked was the music that my parents liked, and some of it was the total opposite. I think just I found music so engaging from such a young age that I ended up kind of, my opinions weren't really shaped by anything except for just I like the sound of that. So I'm always interested when people say that, because I guess in a way I rebelled, but in a way I absolutely didn't. But I think the only time I actually rebelled was more of a societal thing, which was when I got into my teenage years. There was a lot of sort of rock and stuff, and I got into what was popular at the time, as well as the music that I had already decided I liked before that. But I know that during when I was coming up to about in my late teens, when you had that in the early 2000s, like before 2005, when there was a lot of sort of like rock music and really heavy music with a real produced sheen, I started to turn away from rock a lot and go more towards poppy stuff, just because I got sick of just how cool that whole thing was, which I think became true for a lot of people, because obviously that was like the real last iteration where rock was a big thing in the charts. I think post like 2000s, like that first decade, rock's kind of disappeared from the charts. I know there's been a lot said about that. I'm pretty sure I'm happy that I know the reasons why, and there's been a lot of very good things written about it. But I think there's a certain degree of that as well, as people just got kind of a bit sick of the way it was being presented. Was one of many reasons. So Rev said, I have no idea what music my dad liked. He never played any. Yeah, some people, you get parents who just don't play. My parents didn't play much music, which was weird, because I think they both liked music, but they liked very different music. Like my mum liked old sort of pop and rock and roll. My dad liked 60s rock and roll, because that was his generation, but also lots of classical and stuff. So I think I was lucky enough to get a good mix of music. They didn't listen to anything heavy or even slightly modern, though. My mum was like into a lot of 70s and 80s music, which my dad hated. He described anything past the 60s as being modern, in a bad way. Yeah, modern is bad. Quick moment of silence to the end of a swift kick in the lug. Full Beats, I've only played Unseen World once. Didn't blow me away, but I think there will be a lot more to get out of repeat plays. It's like similar to Conqueror in that respect. Yeah, I mean, I was saying in my review, Conqueror, I liked it the more I listened to it. Some tracks, unfortunately, due to the compression, not so much, but I liked it more and listened to it. But it had a lot of immediate impact as well. This album felt quite uneven on the first listen, but repeat listens made it kind of work a bit better. I agree with your final thoughts that the first couple of songs are the best, although I still don't like Afterlife, says Motor. Yeah, I agree. I think Afterlife is probably the weakest of those three, but it does come together with a good chorus. The chorus just kind of elevates it back up. And it does have a nice sort of sense of variation to it as well. It's a song with a lot of detail in it, which I think kind of saves it for me. So I do agree that Afterlife is maybe a bit of a straggler for the three, but it has some real good qualities of its own. But yeah, fair point. I know the other two songs I said I really liked were in that latter half that you really didn't like, and I know in particular you didn't like Sayonara Kidori, so that was an interesting difference, but we agree in the beginning at least. I'm with 11 year ago. Rephrase that, I think. Well, I think, Rev, that's your imagination is the problem if you want me to rephrase that. Motto. Yes, Kia has a KEA, has a ton of youthful. Is that the Metallica album? This is why I struggle with abbreviation. I think that was the name of the. This is the bit, if you abbreviate something that I've only heard once, then you make the time you saved abbreviating it is giving me a lot more time trying to decode it. But assuming that you are talking about the first Metallica album, which I think that was Kill Something, wasn't it? Has a ton of youthful energy. Hatfield sounds more inspired. The riffs are more blues, but that sounds good. That sounds good. My dad listens to a lot of 70s rock. Cool. That's probably why you have a lot of good opinions on that kind of thing. CMC, okay, my typing and spelling will be even worse as 3 hours of sleep. Jeez. Get some kip after this. And thanks for the Reddit link. I think someone dropped the Discord as well earlier. By the way, I keep on saying that. Apologies if it's boring, but I'll just quickly say, remember, we're not monetized. Anything algorithm related is really important to us, so please just press the like if you're even slightly enjoying this, because it helps us a lot. Just keep our stats good and keep people seeing us coming by on their YouTube pages. So likes greatly appreciated. Fernando, Chemical Reaction did not appeal to me on the first 2 listens, but I'm now up to 12, 13 repeats, and I find that song growing on me. I found myself coming to peace with it rather than it growing on me. I don't think there's anything interesting enough about it to grow on me. I do think it's one that I'm already definitely kind of bored with, but it's not that it's bad. It's just to me, there's nothing to it. I can see why people, it's got like the sort of heavy, impactful energy, which was actually the thing I was positively taking from the Nickelback example. But yeah, I think it's the very first listen told me everything I needed to know about it, and I don't think anything subsequently has told me any more, but I've come to peace with it more than I expected. I think mainly just because the energy is very strong. Motto says, Beatles Rush, Alan Parsons Project, Meatloaf, Thin Lizzy, Procol Harum, Elvis Costello, Bruce Springsteen. Some of that rubbed off on me more than others. Interesting. Yeah, Thin Lizzy were a really interesting one, actually. Very often under talked about, but interesting stuff Thin Lizzy did as well. My mum liked Meatloaf, actually. Please give a dislike if you think Jeremiah Howard vacillated too much, or if you think he was considered reasonable and thoughtful, or just press like. My mum likes Fleetwood Mac, Jan Arden, but other than that, I can't really pinpoint her taste. So it seems so interesting seeing what everyone's grew up around. My dad was into country and western both times, and mum liked Enya. So all of the music CMC grew up around was sleepy. Probably explain his interest in much heavier and faster sounds. Motto, oh yeah, my dad was also a huge Queen fan. Saw them in concert when Freddie was alive. Pretty jealous. Yeah, not surprised. Thanks for the Discord link there, Harry. Yeah, guys, if you're not on any of the social medias, remember, they're a good place. We had good conversations like this most of the time anyway, so it's all good. But yeah, I don't think my parents were ever the type to see anything live. One which was really funny is my dad, he got invited once to see John Lennon play live with, I can't remember his name, but the really famous Indian sitar player. My dad had the chance to see John Lennon with, I can never remember his name, the really sort of legendary sitar player, and he didn't go. Just saying, he had something else to do. CMC posted the link to the Unseen Well review on my Bandmade subreddit and the Bandmade Cafe on Facebook. Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciated. Motto, kudos for that's actually it's really good, because hopefully it'll bolster some interest. I hope. But yeah, those kind of, it's actually a really good community. I did notice the community's been really active around the album. But anyway, like I said, I'll talk about that if people bring up the subject. Otherwise, I'm just going to sort of keep on going through the comments just to keep the conversation nice and varied. Well, I was saying to Fernando, kudos for listening to Chemical Reaction 13 times. I probably would have fallen asleep by then. Yeah, unless you've already got the energy in you to sort of feel in keeping with that song, I don't think it's going to inspire energy so much as just sort of match your energy if you're already feeling energetic. If you were feeling kind of relaxed or tired, then that song would probably just yeah, for me, it's kind of it is what it is. It's very sort of clear on the surface. 12 times for the album, says Fernando. Oh, that's a lot of listens. You've been listening solidly. I only did it 6 times, I think. Harry says my mum listened to mostly either Elvis, the Monkees, or the Carpenters. That's a good classic collection, though, isn't it? That's sort of the classics of the sort of popping, rocking kind of area. Although the Monkees over the Beatles is an interesting flaw. But again, my dad never listened to music. My mum listened to Vietnamese music, which was super twangy and pitchy. Yeah. I've got a friend who sings some old style Vietnamese songs, and some of them sound quite nice. But I do get what you're saying. It doesn't exactly introduce you to a contemporary scene particularly quickly. But still interesting to grow up around a sort of ethnic music background. Sorry. Enya says motto is the perfect wallpaper music, i.e. doesn't sound bad at all, but doesn't lend itself to active listening, just something nice to put in the background while you're doing other things. Yes, I think that's actually quite true. I think Dido did that as well. Dido had that ability to just sort of do background music, although I think some of her stuff got a bit melodramatic, which made it a bit harder to just sort of leave in the background because you're like, wow, it's getting depressing in here. Ref, my mother saw the Beatles live, couldn't hear a thing because of the screaming. Shows not like death metal screaming, just in case anyone doesn't know who the Beatles are. She was mainly into the popular music of her day and the Bonzo Dog Band, who are strange. Yes, the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. I've got friends who saw them live about 10 or 15 years ago. Oh, yeah, that's quite recent actually. Timsy, well, she had a very emotionally stressful job being a counsellor, so yes, Enya was a chance to to decompress. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Enya actually is kind of more like therapy than it is music. And Harry, thank you for dropping the Patreon. I feel guilty doing that myself, so it's really nice when someone else does it. My friend was quite fond of playing Enya when he had girls over, says Nagoon. Interesting tactic. And then around that point, that's when he replaced his door with just hanging beads. And had like lava lamps, right, and carpets that for some reason were on the wall and not on the floor. But yeah, and then the minute she leaves, he takes it all down and it's just posters. What are you talking about, Howard? The Beatles are my favourite brutal death metal band. I've got a friend who genuinely, my American friend, you guys might remember when I showed you some of the music videos that I did with bands that I was in and stuff when I was younger. The bass guitarist in that American band I was in when I was in my teenage years, he stands 100% by the belief that the Beatles did the first ever death metal scream. I think it was in Hey Jude. He said it was during the last bit. It was one of the two songs that ends with the sort of repeated crescendo, and I always forget what the other one is, even though it's a really famous song. But I think it might have been Hey Jude, which he says has the first ever death metal scream in it. So he was such a light, chilled out guy, but I remember when he told me that, he played it to me, he was like, that is the first death metal screen. I'm not hearing any arguments. So, okay. Don't know how we got onto this subject, but okay. My sister used to love Free Dog Night. I have never understood why. I don't really know any Free Dog Night songs. I only barely know the name, actually, so that's an interesting one. Maybe worth looking up for the sake of torturing myself. Simsy, the Beatles' Black Album is criminally underrated for sure. I know the White Album. Was there a Black Album? Is there actually a Beatles album, like a Black Album, that I just wasn't even aware of? I'm really racking my brain. Someone tell me, am I crazy? Howard, was your friend sober when he made that statement? He didn't really drink that much, occasionally, but he did take some other intoxicating influences. I think he certainly had some motivation for his beliefs. Did he have an excessive intake of Bolivian mushrooms before the recording session. It wasn't that strong an influence. Okay, Simpsy. This was a joke. There was not a Beatles Black Album. Oh, okay. Okay. The joke was so subtle that I didn't get it. Beautiful. I do actually think it's nice. The last time James was here, which now was back in March or April of last year. It's been so long since I've seen James. Nearly a year. I feel so sad. It's the longest I've been without James for. I feel so sad. Me and James sat down and he told me that he'd never listened to the White Album all the way through. I was like, that's like kind of like one of those things that most people learn to music. Most people sat down and listened to the White Album all the way through. I always said that it's a really interesting album, but I don't think it's very cohesive. I think it's a bit of a mess. But it kind of makes it a very rewarding listen. But it's not one that you would just sort of casually listen to. You'd be like, listen to the White Album's kind of like, I've got to sit down and do this. But some of the songs on there are just brilliant. It has some of the best Beatles songs on there. So in actuality, I do think the White Album is, even though it's extremely highly rated, I do think it's still underrated. I would probably say, in my opinion, probably the best Beatles album. There you go. That's a controversial statement. Probably the best Beatles album, despite the fact that it's an incohesive mess for the best part. Back in the USSR. So many levels, I love that song for all the weirdest, wrongest reasons. Alright, let's have a look at some of the comments that are coming in. Though, thanks for the laugh while you try to remember if there was. Yeah, I was kind of worrying if I was getting my entire credentials as a music lover destroyed on live stream in front of me. I was like, there's a Black Album? I was thinking, I'm not talking about. Actually, someone remixed. I only heard a few tracks from this, but someone apparently remixed the entire White Album from the Beatles against the vocals from the entire Black Album by Jay-Z and called it the Grey Album. And this was like out and about somewhere about 15 years ago. And I remember I heard some tracks from it, but I never got a copy of the whole thing. I should look for that again. It was more incoherent than the White Album. And yeah, but it was funny. It was definitely an awesome idea. Even if just doing it for an album name joke, still it was an awesome idea. There was a Black Album, unofficial compilation album, says Airline Secret. Okay, that's the sort of thing you'd expect though. Someone would probably do that, so that makes sense. But it wasn't like a studio release, so okay, my brain is fine. So the progenitor to Norwegian black metal album then. Says CMC, quite possibly. LMO, White Album has some of the most brilliant and some of the worst songs in the entire catalogue, very up and down. Yeah, I think we can agree on that. But that's what happens when you have a triple CD. Well, I don't think it was released as a triple CD. But I think I get your point though. I think I can follow you with that. I used to find some Beatles songs very depressing because my mother played them, says Rev, very slowly in an old bellows organ. A half-speed Eleanor Rigby is not cheerful. I love the song Eleanor Rigby, but yeah, I mean, one of the things about it is it's got that sort of like stalking urgency to it. Dum, 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 dum. It feels very much like there's kind of that feeling like it's pursuing something. There's a real tone to it. That's not a song to be played slowly. A lot of what makes that song great is a mixture of the scale that it's written in, which is a really interesting, unusual scale. Apparently Paul McCartney got the idea from like listening to old folk music, like British folk music or European folk music. So it's got that really interesting sort of sound to it, the scale, and that sort of just that sort of speed, there's a weird intensity to it. That's a brilliant song, but playing it slowly, I think, would be... I do remember hearing someone do, like... You know, there's that thing now where people do this sometimes for adverts or trailers. They'll take a famous song and then they'll play it slowly with piano and sing it smoothly and turn it into something deep and ballady. I heard someone do that with Eleanor Rigby and it really pissed me off. It's like, Eleanor Rigby. I was like... I'm all for people adding creative ideas, but you've sucked all the creativity out of this song, you monster. I never found out who did that version, probably just because I never wanted to hear it again. CMC, Reddit link again, thank you. And Rigby was never a cheerful song to begin with, says Marta. Yeah, again, but it had a sort of an urgency to it. Was Brothers in Arms the first CD? do not know. I don't know the answer to this question. Um, at half speed, it's like a funeral song. Yeah, well, especially you said it was on like a bellows organ as well. Yeah, yeah. Actually, funny enough, one of the first instruments I ever had. I think you guys know I played piano first, and I played a little bit of an organ. I played a few church organs without bursting into flames. But one of the first, I think it was the first instrument I ever had at home was, I think it would count as a bellows organ. It was one of those ones where you turn it on, the fan goes on, and then it's loud, it's really loud. I had that at home, and I was limited on how much I could play it because of how loud it was. It wasn't. It was one of those things. When I was a kid, it felt huge, but it probably wasn't that huge. It was probably just huge because I was small. But thinking about it now, I think it was just the size of a normal full-size keyboard, but like the way that we think of the size of a television now, you think of an old television, a lot of it was the depth. Same thing with this, it just had a lot of behind it with the big fan unit thing. But it was something that you could pick up and put on a table like a keyboard. But yeah, so a lot of the first songs I played were on something like that, and it did have that weird sort of... if you played it fast, it worked. Kind of like almost like a huge accordion, but if you played it slow, everything sounded like a funeral. Howard, please don't remind me of that shitty trailer music. Are you thinking of a specific song? It says the only time I thought one of those trailers sounded half decent was when they did Claire de Lune by Debussy for the trailer of the second Godzilla film. That was okay. Some of them I do like, and a lot of them I respect for being interesting works on a song, but there's some songs where you just don't do that to them because, I mean, yeah, it's unimaginative either way because everyone does that same thing, or at least there was a period when everyone was doing that same thing. But there's some songs you don't do it to, and there's some songs where it doesn't give anything different. It takes away the quintessential quality, and Eleanor Rigby is one of those songs. At its very core, what makes it work is that the sullen sound is a juxtaposition with this tension. It's sullen, but it's tense at the same time. That's why it works. You take out one of its core qualities, and it doesn't work anymore. It's not like taking a rock song and doing it slowly, where what you're basically saying is, okay, it's rock because it's rock, but let's just focus more on the melody. Let's focus on its core musicality. It's not like that. It's a song which was, just missing the point. So yeah, some of those I'm okay with. It is an unimaginative idea that people keep on doing it, but some of those I'm okay with. But some of them really not. And yeah, I think you're more hitting on the fact it is just an unimaginative trend that keeps on happening. Rev says she was slow because she couldn't play very well. That's a good reason. You notice most people who learn to play anything on piano, all the songs when they start, it's like, yeah, I'm doing a chilled version. It's like, you can only play it slowly, can't you? That's a good thing. I think when I first started playing, I kind of took that approach as well. Everything was the slowed version. For Bleeds, the first commercial compact disc was produced on 17th of August 1982. It was a recording from 1979 by Claudio Aro performing Chopin waltzes, apparently. That's interesting. I was of the impression that the CDs were commercially available in 1985. It might be that one was produced in 1982. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was pretty sure that 1985 was when they became like widely available. But I could be totally wrong there. Because it's kind of like this, almost like a 10-year rule for it, isn't it? Like, cause, my understanding was CDs was 85, then DVD, I believe, came out in 1995. I think Blu-ray came out in 2005. Nothing came out in 2015 because the technology kind of just switched over mostly to being digital streaming anyway. But I think there was like that 10-year rule. But I could be wrong. Maybe there was some figure for when it became internationally available. Who knows? But yeah, 1982 sounds about right. Still way too late for the White Album. Brotherly Arms was the first CD single, but albums had been done years before. Years before. Fair enough. There you go. We're all learning something today, aren't we? For these, another Wikipedia quote. The first 50 titles were released in Japan, so 1st of October 1992, the first of which was a release of Billy Joel album 52nd Street. That's really intriguing. Okay, I'm going to have to look into that. I mean, obviously, there's no reason to assume it's wrong. For some reason, the figure of 1985 is always in my head. Fair enough. Mm-hmm. Goodness. Let's switch over to something a little bit more impactful than that now it's run over. Starting to get a little bit sleepy, so I'm going to have to probably call it a day at 1 hour. Let's give us another 15 minutes to have a good old chin wag. So I need something which will help me get to sleep. I'm sure I've got something around here that will do that. How to become a victim of the Mandela effect. Well, I feel like I should know what that means, but I don't. So if someone wants to tell me what the Mandela effect is, go for it. I get the feeling there's a lot of common knowledge that goes around in these chats that completely evades my brain power. So yeah, just sort of quickly going back for anyone who's because I mentioned this a bit at the beginning. Just I will quickly mention that the so I'm looking to do a mixture of a lot of song reviews, but also a lot more album reviews coming up in the coming few weeks, which will allow me to really dive into a lot more artists who we haven't been able to listen to before because of copyright reasons. So I'll discuss this on the Discord, and people are kind of happy about that, so that's going to be really cool. We've got another video coming up where I'm going to do video responses to the many comments we had on my many Unseen World reviews, because I'm really looking forward to going into that, because I think some of the comments that have been left have been really interesting, and so some of them I'll be sort of pushing back against, and some of them I'll be seeing if they develop and change my own opinion, but really going through some of the more interesting ones there. So that's another thing that we're going to be doing relatively soon. And then also I have the video interview with my nemesis, which I'm probably going to post for next weekend, actually, just so it can come out then. So hopefully we're going to get a bit of time to experiment with the content. We're at the beginning of year 3 after all, so a bit of fun, change things up, see what develops out of it. I'm really looking forward to a bit of fun. Thank you, by the way, for CMC once again dropped a Reddit link. Harry's dropped in the Discord on the Patreon. Greatly appreciate it, guys. It means a lot. If you watch the film Sidemen, Billy Joe is an epic tool. CMC. I wouldn't really know, but I'll have to trust you on that. You did Tool with a capital T, so now I just imagine Billy Joel like singing a Tool album. I don't know. I've seen him live before. He always came off as one for me. Not surprising, really. Fair enough. Show off. Okay, so we don't apparently have that many Billy Joel fans. I don't really have much of an opinion on Billy Joel at all, to be honest. Pop. So fair enough, everyone. But yeah, I am gonna give Unseen World a good number of extra listens. I think that to my taste, to my opinion, I think Conqueror remains my favourite album, although World Domination probably has some of my favourite songs. It does have some of my best songs are on World Domination. I just think as an album it doesn't feel as well rounded as Conqueror. I think actually that would probably be my thought thus far. Again, I'll be the first to agree that Conqueror has some major problems, not from the band. It's almost all in the mastering and a little bit in the mixing as well. The production though is beautiful, and I think just as an album it's the most rounded album that they've produced. To me it's the album that I can most easily listen from front to back to, and that just helps a lot of the songs stand out as well. So yeah, I probably would say that at this point at least, unless sort of repeat listens and time fades my opinion in a different direction, I'd say Conqueror still remains my favourite album. Where Unseen World comes as an album compared to the other two fully Bandmade written albums is a difficult one to judge. That's one that I'll be thinking about a lot, especially when I do this Bandmade Top 25. Oh yeah, I've got to do the live stream for that as well soon. I meant to do that before New Year, but obviously I ended up coming back from the trip like a week later than expected. Also, the videos from the trip, they're getting made, they're going to be coming out soon. One of the main things that's delayed that is the first of, there's going to be 5 videos total from the trip. The first one is the longest one. Well, I think it's that the last one might actually be nearly as long, but the first one has a lot of extra cutaway footage because I'm talking about a lot of things that happen and comparing it to old stories, so I've had to find a lot of old footage to put in there as well. So that first video is quite extensive, yeah, but there's some ones in there where I go to some places that you guys probably maybe have never even heard of, which is going to be really interesting. I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you guys. It was just a really great experience, that trip, and I got some interesting stuff. I did try to meet some bands, but just because of the COVID lockdowns, a lot of bands weren't really about for doing things like interviews and stuff. And I was a bit late getting some responses from some of them as well. But maybe that'll be something for the next time, next trip. Hopefully get a little bit more of that kind of thing. By the way, guys, just in case you haven't already, please feel free to press like if you're just enjoying hanging out with us, because good for the old algorithms, considering we're not monetized. I keep on saying it, but it is important. Thank you. Back on topic though, let's have a look at what people are saying. To the contrary, I love his music, says Malta. Interesting. It's easy, says Harry. Why did I go for your surname suddenly? It's easy to drop double links when using two devices for one stream, laptop to watch it and phone for commenting. Nice. That's imagine you're just in front of your computer screen panel. As the saying goes, never meet your heroes. I've met a couple of my heroes. I don't think I was ever disappointed. I was very lucky. I met some heroes, but also some people who I just kind of liked. One of my heroes who I think I shouldn't ever meet, because I get the feeling I wouldn't get on with him at all. A lot of you know I'm a big fan of Blur, and I accept his faults, but I'm I really love like Damon Albarn's work, and a lot of that was what inspired me to get into music. I think I mentioned once to you guys before that when I grew up, I didn't have a CD player till actually I was in my teenagers, till I left home. I didn't have any device for playing my own music. I had a little tape deck, but I couldn't really get tapes for it. I mainly used that for recording and cutting and mixing my own music. But I remember I had this tiny little Russian radio, AM radio, and I could hear all kinds of music on it. And I remember there were so many songs I liked, but I had no way of keeping them. And a lot of the time, because the audio wasn't great and it cut in and out a little bit, and DJs would often speak fast. You couldn't really tell a lot of the time who the song's by. And a name like Blur is so short that if you don't have good quality, you can often miss it entirely. And anyway, as you can probably imagine, just one day when I eventually got a CD player, I thought, oh, Blur, I've heard of them. I went to buy like the little best of album, and I bought it. And I remember that was one of the weirdest experiences. I sat down and listened to it, and I was like, every single song on this album, not only do I know, but this was a song that I really loved when I heard it on radio, and then just didn't get to hear it again after it disappeared from rotation. So yeah, I was a big fan of his, but I got to admit, sometimes when I hear some of the things he says, I'm like, this guy, I don't know if he's the sort of guy I'd get on with, or if I'd find him to be a bit of a hipster. So that's one who I've avoided. But I've met some of my other fans who were actually fans, like heroes and inspirations, and just people I've liked who turned out to just be seriously awesome. So I've been lucky with that. But yeah, as a general, I still agree the rule is kind of true. I think that's mainly because what we were saying before, and I've said this so many times, people think they know what their favourite artists are like as people. You almost definitely don't. It's fun to enjoy the personality that artists put out, but doesn't necessarily mean that you know them. Just enjoy the face that they spread to the world. That's the good thing about being a fan. You get to see a version of them that they tailor for you. Not to say that artists aren't honest. There's some really honest artists with their impression, but you never know which ones are 100%, which ones are honest about the way they appear on camera, which ones are not. So let's have a look here. CMC Made in Japan, I'm fairly castigated. Made in Japan, I really enjoyed that album. I think people are way too hard on that, but I will be having a talk about that as well. I'm going to be looking at those albums as well for the top 25. I'm not going to be discrediting those albums. They're going to be fully available for the top 25 list. Airline, you can't judge, give it a year to compare. I don't know if you're joking or being honest about that. I think I can tell enough to be fair on that, but yeah, obviously after a year your opinion might change, but again after 20 years your opinion will change. There's got to be that point where you say, okay, and I've heard it enough. And I think after you've heard an album like sort of 5 or 10 times, that's easily enough to say everything you need to know, and then the rest is just the changing of yourself over time. CMC, at least the Unseen World is not the easy option of World Domination 2 or Conqueror. I did think in a way it felt almost like it was trying to be World Domination 2, but there were enough changes that it wasn't. But it's the easy option of Conqueror. I don't know what you mean by that. Maybe I need to understand your point a bit better. Unseen World is a good length. I can get a playthrough on my walk to work. Agreed. And again, I think that's one of the things that really saves this album compared to World Domination. Is it's much more concise. It's very deliberate, concise length. Oh, Conqueror 2 even. Okay, fair enough. I've been listening to Made in Japan as an album for the first time in a while. There's a joy and energy still to it. I agree. I think it has something that you don't hear on any of their other albums. Maybe the second album a bit, but there's a certain joy that's missing from the later work. But I do think that's one of the things I like about Sayanaki Dori is I think Sayanaki Dori captures a little bit of that Made in Japan vibe. I didn't really think about that at the time, but it is that energy that I feel in that song as well. But yeah, no, Made in Japan's a good album. People give it a stick for really kind of flimsy reasons, I think. CMC, thanks for the Reddit link again, guys. Good place to be, especially if you've got something interesting of a topic you want to put on there, then Reddit's a great place to put topics. I really need to start using it more myself as well. Four Bleats, does anyone know which is the intended track order for Unseen World, given that it was released with 2 sequences? I'll say it again. The standard version is always the one you should follow, because the standard version is what it is. If they start doing bonus versions where they mess around with the order, which, like I say, I went on a rant about that. I'm kind of unhappy about that. I think it detracts from what they've created to do a version that's like that. I was saying to someone in the comments, if you've got a special edition version to get the extra tracks, what I would do is I would take that. Don't play it in a CD player, play it in a computer so you can reorder the tracks, put them in the order that was intended, which is the standard version. It is, because the order's only changed from the other one because extra tracks have been put in there that they obviously didn't want in the standard version. The standard version is always the definitive version because that's the way that it was obviously written. Otherwise, it wouldn't be bonus tracks, it would be them taking tracks out of the standard version, which I don't believe any band does. So I would say take the special edition version, put it in your computer, reorder the tracks in the correct order, and then put the other songs that extra, put them at the back of the queue so you can listen to them as enjoyable bonuses. That's what I would do personally. But yeah, I wish they hadn't done that. But then again, it's fair enough. But an album is as much a product, even though people don't listen to albums as albums anymore, I know, but an album is still a product that's been created by them. I don't think the record company should be messing around with the order for the sake of a special edition. Put bonus tracks on the end. Harry, the Howard needs to do Scandals Canberra as a separate reaction from the whole album if Hello World. Yeah, actually that's probably one that I would, just because of the amusing factor actually. Whatever the hell Scandals OG rap album project was, yeah. The Bond, it's hard enough to read, let alone say. So CMC with Conqueror there, but yeah, I agree. There were people who insisted it made much more sense playing it in reverse. So Reno track 1. Yeah, I got that. I thought that was an interesting comment that people made about that. I don't actually fully agree, but I could see that there was an interesting relevance to that. Finishing the album on something big and anthemic and starting it with full energy would have actually made a kind of an interesting choice. Whether the entire album would have worked in reverse, I think that would have more just been to justify that choice. But although I thought that was very interesting and kind of made sense, ultimately I did like it the way it was written, and I thought there was very brave for Page to go first. I thought that was a really brave statement, that they were going to challenge their fans to try and listen to something a bit different. That's one of the reasons it endeared itself to me very quickly on the first listen. Fernando, Made in Japan, although I should point out, Warning's a brilliant beginning to this album, Unseen World. Fernando, Made in Japan was still an exploration trip by the band. Yeah, I guess you're always exploring, but yeah, that was when they first were trying to work out who they wanted to be. So yeah, I get that, but I think it's sometimes that's when you have a certain spark in your sound that never comes back, and not in a bad way, just that there's a sort of a certain ignorance to who you are that makes debut offerings very interesting a lot of the time. Simply, my point was that the safe option at a new label would be to go safe and refresh previous successes, getting used to the Demented Pigeon and everything. Yeah, like I said, I thought that Pony Canyon would go one of two ways, but the one thing that I said from the beginning, and I stand by this, and it's on record, of course, is that I was always sure that Pony Canyon would not get them to throw out their core sound. And probably, like I said, I would suspect that Pony Canyon might even put pressure into them to do something that appealed to their base. Now, obviously we don't know who was the driving force behind the sound of this album. It certainly sounds like the girls had a lot of fun with what they were doing, so I think it would have been something where the band went for the sound that was natural for them in this particular time, with the oddities of 2020 being a feature of that as well. And I think the record label Pony Canyon would have been very happy with what was offered up, because they would have listened to this and said, well, we bought them, and their fans are going to be coming along with them based on this. So yeah, I think the album would have kept everyone happy on that side. To be honest, this album felt safe in a way, but at the same time better, if that makes sense. I didn't expect them to suddenly go full prog or rap or electronic or whatever, because this is Pony Canyon we're talking about here. I agree. I wanted them to do something totally demented and out of order of what they've done before. Like just suddenly doing something where they switched all their instruments for electro stuff or whatever. But I wasn't overly surprised when it turned out to be quite safe in a lot of ways. But, they stayed safe in genre, but adventurous in how they express that genre. So we're going to wrap things up now. I'm just going to read the last couple of comments and start to bring this one around. It's about an hour in, like I say, feeling a little bit sleepy. So probably finish this while I've still got my energy and my wits about me. CMC, Made in Japan was made in kind of a mess. New band, lead singer quits as lead singer. New singer comes in not knowing the full story, etc. Straight out of a J-drama. Yeah, but I do get what you're saying. Obviously, that would add a certain element to it. But that's a story that's fairly familiar. I'm sure a lot of bands have had that kind of feeling. It's normal to, when you're recording a first album, to change members as well. It's part of that thing that gives a band a very fresh sound in the first album, is that unassuming element to it. Definitely the riff out of the chorus is full on. Harry said, I only listened to Manners so far from Unseen World, mostly because CM still said the bass line and main guitar was a bit of a Scandal sound to it. I agree with that. Yeah, I thought it had a little bit of that feeling as well. And it does seem that you guys are in agreement on that, so that's kind of good. Song as a whole doesn't sound like Scandal, but the main riff sounds very mammy, yeah. So anyway, thanks guys, dropping the likes as always. Reddit link there, please consider following that, as well as any of the other links. Marta saying, I don't know how I feel about the debut now, might have to listen to it again. All I know is I feel some of their early stuff has too much cheese in it for me to enjoy. I don't mind happy music, but not to the point where it gets over the top and cheesy. I don't think anything from their early stuff sounded cheesy to me. Maybe Don't Let Me Go, but that's not too early, is it? Not cheesy to a fault. But then again, I find cheesy can be quite fun. Musically lactose intolerant, very true. All right, Ayasumi, ciao to you. Hello, Malta. Thank you very much. Thank you to Harry for dropping the Discord link. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Thank you for watching the videos. Like I say, there's a lot coming up, including me doing a video responding to a lot of the really interesting comments. Live stream, probably about 7 or 8 hour live stream where I'm going to listen to every single Band-Maid song again, just to try and reaffirm the scores I've been writing down for the top 25 list. Don't expect anyone to watch the entire thing with me, but I'll just be there in case you want to pop in at any time during that. There will be the interview with my nemesis coming up, which is going to be really cool. It's a really good interview. I'm hoping you guys enjoy it. There's some other projects as well. There's album reviews. A few little things. James is going to be, he's got a lot of backup binges to put up now. He's put up a lot which are ready to go for this coming week, as well as anime reviews. There's more anime reviews coming. There's a lot of stuff coming up. So guys, do stay in touch with us. Shoulder ache. Alright, yeah, I'm starting to feel tired, so it's time to check out. Alright, so anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, like I say. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever it is for you, where you are. And I will say, with a great deal of appreciation for everyone here, ciao, ciao. See you next time. Thanks very much.